Hi, hello everyone. My name is Muhammad Shafiq bin Arifin, and today I will present on chapter 1 of our research proposal titled The Effect of Inflation Rate, Unemployment Rate, and Gross Domestic Products, GDP, Growth on Nominal Median Monthly Household Income in Malaysia. To begin with the background, household income is an essential economic indicator. It reflects a family's financial resources for daily expenditures, savings, and overall living standards. Higher household income directly foster financial stability and improve well-being. In Malaysia, the COVID pandemic severely impacted household earnings due to job losses and business closures. Although the national economy has gradually recovered, many households continue to face persistent living cost pressures and financial uncertainty. Household income is driven by key macroeconomic factors, which is inflation, reduced purchasing powers, unemployment eliminates earning capacity, and GDP growth creates job opportunities and business growth. While prior studies have examined these factors individually, limited research evaluates their combined effect on household income in Malaysia within a single framework. Moving on to our problem statement, Malaysia has recorded strong post-pandemic growth, but improvements in top-level economic statistics does not necessarily guarantee on equal gain in household purchasing power. For instance, between 2002 and 2024, nominal median household income rose from 6,338 ringgit to 7,070 ringgit. However, real median income grew by only 6.0% due to rising price levels. Income disparities also persist between urban and rural areas. This demonstrates that nominal income gains do not fully capture actual improvements in living standards. Furthermore, rising inflation continuously erodes household spending capacity for basic necessities like food, housing, and transport. Unemployment and job insecurity also directly undermine income stability, even as aggregate unemployment figures improve. Additionally, while GDP growth supports national expansions, its benefits are not always distributed equally across all household tiers. Because existing literature presents mixed findings and rarely models these three core economic drivers together, our study addressed this gap by examining their individuals and joint relationship with nominal household income in Malaysia. To address this core problem, Chapter 1 outlines 4 specific research objectives and 4 corresponding research questions. Our first objective is to examine the relationship between the inflation rate and nominal median monthly household income in Malaysia. Correspondingly, research question 1 asks whether there is significant relationship between inflation and nominal household income. Our second objective is to examine the relationship between the unemployment rate and nominal household income, with research question 2 questioning if this labour market factor holds a statistically significant relationship. Our third objective is to analyse the relationship between GDP growth and nominal household income, which leads to our research question 3 on whether economic growth significantly relates to income levels. Finally, our fourth objective and research questions focus on the joint relationship, determining whether inflation, unemployment, and GDP growth together are significantly associated with nominal median monthly household income in a single model. To conclude Chapter 1, let's touch on our study scope, limitation, and practical significance. In terms of scope, our study adopts a quantitative approach using national secondary data from the Department of Statistics Malaysia and Open DOSM. Because official household income surveys are published periodically rather than every year, our final data set consists of 16 selected surveyors between 1997 and 2022 that offer complete data across all 4 variables. We naturally recognize a few key limitations. First, we rely entirely on official secondary data. Second, our sample size is relatively small and equal to 16, meaning diagnostic tests must be interpreted with care. Third, non-macro variables like education levels or minimum wage policies fall outside our scope. And fourth, income is measured in nominal ringgit terms rather than CPI-adjusted real values. Despite these constraints, this study provides vital empirical insights for policymakers by negara Malaysia and government agencies. It offers a clearer understanding of how key economic indicators interact, helping authorities craft better strategies for price stability, job creation, and sustainable income growth for Malaysian families.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Anggun. So I did chapter 2. This chapter 2 provides the theoretical and empirical foundation for this study. In this chapter, I review the concepts of the variable used in the research, namely inflation rate, unemployment rate, GDP growth, and household income. I also discuss the Keynesian economic theory, which explains the relationship between these variables. In addition, I review previous empirical studies conducted between 2022 and 2025, identified the research gap, and developed the conceptual framework together with the research hypothesis that will be tested in this study. This study is guided by the Keynesian economic theory introduced by John Maynard Keynes. According to this theory, aggregate demand is the main factors that determine economic activity. When demand increases, business produce more goods and services, which creates additional employment opportunities. As employment increases, household income also increases, leading to higher consumption and economic growth. However, the theory also explains that inflation reduces the purchasing power of household because higher prices reduce the real value of income. Therefore, Keynesian theory provides a suitable theoretical foundation for explaining the expected relationship in this study. I review several recent studies and institutional reports published between 2022 and 2025. Overall, these studies consistently found that GDP growth contributes positively to employment and household income, while inflation and unemployment negatively affect household welfare and purchasing power. However, most previous studies focus on broader issues such as poverty, inequality, household welfare, and economic policy. In addition, many studies examine these variables separately rather than together. Therefore, there is still limited evidence on the combined effects of inflation, unemployment, and GDP growth on household income in Malaysia using a single econometric model. Based on the literature review on Keynesian economic theory, I developed this conceptual framework. It illustrates the proposed relationship between the independent variables and the dependent variable. Inflation rate and unemployment rate are expected to have negative effects on household income because higher prices and fewer employment opportunities reduce household financial well-being. On the other hand, GDP growth is expected to have a positive effect because stronger economic performance creates more employment opportunities and increases household earnings.
Based on the findings from previous studies and the conceptual framework, four research hypotheses were formulated. The first three hypotheses examine the individual effect of each independent variable on household income. The fourth hypothesis examines whether inflation rate, unemployment rate, and GDP growth collectively have a significant influence on household income in Malaysia. This hypothesis will be tested statistically in Chapter 3 using multiple regression analysis. In conclusion, Chapter 2 provides the theoretical and empirical foundation for this research. The review of literature shows that inflation, unemployment, and GDP growth are important macroeconomic factors influencing household income. The discussion also identified a research gap in the Malaysian context, particularly regarding the combined effects of these variables. Based on this review, the conceptual framework and four research hypotheses were developed. The next chapter will explain the research methodology used to test this hypothesis.
Assalamualaikum, good day and greeting everyone. So my name is Muhammad Nomer Raizan and today I will be presenting chapter 3, a research methodology for my study title. The relationship between inflation, unemployment, GDP growth and nominal median monthly household income in Malaysia. In this chapter, I will explain the research design, variables, data resources, data collection, procedure and data analysis. and the ethical consideration of this study. These studies use a quantitative correlational research design because the objective is to examine whether there is a statistical relationship between inflation, unemployment, GDP growth, and household income. The study analyzed Malaysia economic data covering the period from 2010 and 2025. A quantitative approach is appropriate because it allows statistical settings and provide objective result. This research also design is suitable for identifying patterns and understanding how these macroeconomic variables are related over time. And there are 4 variables used in this study. The dependent variable is nominal median monthly house income measured in Malaysia ringgits. The independent variables are inflation rate, unemployment rate, GDP growth rate, inflation measure changes in the consumer price index. Unemployment represent the percentage of the labor force without jobs. GDP growth reflects the country's annual economic performance. All variables are measured annually for the years 2010 to 2025. This research used secondary data, meaning the information is already published by trusted institutions. The data are obtained from such as Department of Statistics, Malaysia, DOSMs, Bank Negara Malaysia, or the World Bank. The sampling method is purposive sampling, where only annual data from 2010 until 2025 are selected because this year provide complete and reliable information. Using official source improve the reliability and validity of this study. After obtaining the data from the official database, the information was extracted and organized into one data set. Next, the data were cleaned by checking for missing values, inconsistencies, formatting errors, and possible outliers. The clean data were then validated by comparing information across multiple official sources. Finally, all variables were compiled into one standardized dataset before conducting statistical analysis. Several statistical techniques will be used in these studies. First, descriptive statistics will summarize the data using the mean, median, and variance. Second, Pearson correlations analysis will determine whether there is a relationship between each independent variable and household income. Third, multiple linear regressions will analyze the combined effect of inflation, unemployment, and GDP growth on household income. And finally, time series diagnostic tests including the augmented Dinky Fuller is called ADF test will be conducted to examine stationarity. The analysis will be performed using SPSS and R softwares. This study does not involve human participants because it uses publicly available secondary data. Therefore, informed consent is not required. All information comes from official and internationally recognized database, ensuring transparency and data integrity. However, there are some limitations. Since secondary data are used, the researcher has no control over how the data were originally collected. In addition, unexpected policy change may influence the economic indicator but are not fully captured in the research model.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Anisha Zana binti Ahmad Shamsul. Today I will present the result and finding of my study, focusing on the relationship between household income and macroeconomic variables. This study uses 16 observations based on selected surveyor from 1987 to 2022. The dependence variables is LHHI, which represent nominal median monthly household income. For the independent variables are inflation rate, unemployment rate, and GDP growth rate. Based on the descriptive analysis, GDP growth is the most volatile variables, ranging from negative 5.5% to 9.8%. Household income increased over the long run, showing improvement from 6.5779 to 8.7543. Inflation also recorded deflation in 2022 with the lowest value of negative 1.2%. The trend analysis shows that household income increased steadily over time, and unemployment was relatively stable, while GDP growth experienced stronger shocks, especially during crisis period. This shows that economic crisis can affect macroeconomic performance. The correlation result shows that inflation, unemployment, and GDP growth are negatively correlated to the household income. Inflation and GDP growth also have a strong positive correlation of 0.8462. However, correlation only shows association and does not prove causation. The multiple regression analysis was conducted to examine the effect of inflation, unemployment, and GDP growth on household income. The result shows that unemployment has a significant negative effect on the household income, while inflation and GDP growth are not individually significant. For hypothesis testing, H2 is supported because unemployment is a significant negative effect on household income. H1 and H3 are not supported because inflation and GDP growth are not significant individually. H4 is supported because the overall model is jointly significant. The diagnostic test was conducted to check whether the regression model is reliable. The results show no major problem in the model, meaning the model is acceptable for interpretation. The diagnostic test shows that the regression model has no major statistical problem. All centered VIF values are below 5, indicating no serious multicollinearity. The heteroscedasticity test probabilities are above 0.05, meaning the residual variance is stable. The zero correlation test probability are also above 0.05, showing no first-order serial correlation. Therefore, the model is considered reliable for interpretation. In summary, this study finds that unemployment has a significant negative effect on a nominal median monthly household income. For inflation and GDP growth rate are not individually significant. The model is jointly significant and explains 47.58% of the variation income.